the work group, the team with whom you're working, okay, the people, whether it can be a formal or informal groups which have been created, the cohesiveness, that is the closeness between the groups, all this will be some of the important factors which decide the satisfaction. And you have the working conditions. Now, the place where you work is the working conditions, what I'm talking about, the physical work environment, like it can be the ventilation, or it can be the lighting, or it can be the air. So these factors will definitely affect the job satisfaction. Okay. So if the working conditions are very good, automatically you tend to be very satisfied with the work. And the kind of supervision what you're getting. Okay. If your supervisor regards you very high because he feels that you're very punctual, you're doing your job very quickly, and you're, too honest with your job, the supervisor feels that, and the supervision is generally motivating, your job is satisfied. And rewards and career advancement, that is, if you're getting good salary, good pay, or good reward, or your career is planned based on your performance, you're moved upward, then definitely you are highly satisfied. How do we measure them? There are three components where we can measure the satisfaction. Where the satisfaction comprises of. It can be evaluative, cognitive, and affective. Evaluative, it represents the assessment of feelings such as dislike versus like for the organization. Cognitive, these are individuals' perceptions, opinions, beliefs, and it can be the expectations of the organization. Okay, so he strongly describes or not applicable. Affective, in general, positive effect results from information, feedback, and situations, reinforcement, repetitions. Reinforcements is nothing but repetitions, self-worth, self-concept. Okay, so these will be the situations which will be evoked to understand whether it is a positive effect or a negative effect. So generally we have a single global rating. Here only one question, such as all things considered, how satisfied are you with the job? Okay, or it can be a summation score, employees assessment, like how satisfied he is or how dissatisfied he is, based on the some kind of complex summation of a number of discrete job elements. It can be relating to the work, it can be relating to the reward or pay system or promotion, supervision, or it can be the peer group relations. Based on that, the summating score instruments will be there. And these are the popular instruments, like even I used in my PhD. That is the Minnesota Satisfaction Questionnaire. And we also have the Job Descriptive Index and Job Satisfaction Survey, where here 72 items are considered in the job descriptive, whereas 36 item questionnaires are taken in the job satisfaction survey. Or you can also have the job diagnostic survey, which has been developed by Hackman or Oldham. So these survey instruments are already there, which are tested. Whatever the items which have been included in these questionnaires are tested. So it is very easy for any one of the researcher to take that questionnaire and apply them in their organizations and understand how much or what is the percentage of employees who are satisfied with the job and dissatisfied. So how do you improve the job satisfaction? First of all, you have to understand the expectations. So many of the employees, they are stressed, they are frustrated because of the unrealistic expectations. So you have to provide them proper information and take steps to moderate their expectations. For example, some kind of a job has been given. The worker expects that if he is repeatedly performing the job very good, so he will be definitely promoted to a higher rank. So that is the job of every employee. They have to perform and achieve the results. But each and every employee says that, okay, I'm achieving, give me promotion. So who will be doing the lower level jobs? Nobody, isn't it? So such kind of high expectations, unrealistic expectations should be avoided. And the engagement of the employees, you need to measure. So what kind of job satisfaction is derived by the employees has to be periodically assessed, and it is always the long-term factors should be considered. The focus should be always there on the long term. So whether it is expectations or satisfaction, these are all dynamic. I mean, they change. Every day they change. Very frequently they change. Depending upon the job they do, that changes. The psychological feelings, the mood, the environment, the peer group. So there are so many factors which will influence an employee, and based on that, the dynamism is there. The expectations will be changing very frequently, and even the satisfaction levels, right? So organizations should have a long vision wherein they try to focus on the long-term plans and empower the employees. You need to empower, you need to motivate them, okay? And you have to create the positive work environment. And not only that, if you're improving the relationships at work, whether it can be the group work or it can be the individual work, and you are trying to have a positive, good communication system wherein each and every employee will be openly discussing the things. So such kind of an environments will bring a lot of satisfaction. And employee well-being. Yeah, so if an employee is taken care, the organization is taken care. Okay, so we are talking about mental well-being as well as physical well-being. So you provide a very good environment, but your peer group is not good, your team leader is not good. What happens? Though the environment is very good, the opportunity has been given to you to perform very good, but mentally you are stressed, you're strained. I mean, you don't have a good line of communication with your team leader or with your team members. Every day you have a fight. So that tension will be there in the mind. So such kind of tensions or such kind of, what do I say? The mental agony will be definitely affecting the work performance and satisfaction levels. So wherever possible, the employee should be recognized and rewarded. Okay, and if possible, they should be provided with the opportunities for the learning so that they can grow in their career, or it can be the personal growth. And apart from that, the potential. What is the potential? That is the inherent ability what every employee has. So you need to develop those skills. And apart from that, you have to give a proper feedback. So unless you give a feedback, the employees will not know where they are standing and how do they develop. Now we have morale. What is morale? Morale is purely emotional. So it is an attitude of an employee towards his job or superior organization. So that is what morale is said. And this may be very high or very low. But it all depends upon the working conditions, the superiors, the co-workers, payment, and the kind of reward and recognitions you get. So there are so many factors which generally influence the morale. Okay. So morale is nothing but the mental condition or attitude of individuals and groups which determines their willingness to cooperate in the organization. So whenever you have good morale, definitely that is evidenced by employee enthusiasm. Okay. And they are very, they are willing to cooperate. They are willing to accomplish. They are happy with whatever they are performing. And they try to associate themselves very closely with the organizational objectives. And what do you mean by poor morale? It is evidenced by the insubordination. You don't feel like accepting the orders. You feel discouraged. You dislike the job. You dislike the company. You are not in a mood to associate yourself with the organization. You disassociate with the organization. All these are the evidences of the poor morale. So whenever you have high morale at the workplace, you have a very good productivity, you have good outcomes, and you have less absenteeism as well as turnover. People will not be leaving the organization. And there is a very well communication between the management and the workers. So the workers will be coming in time, okay, and doing their jobs without postponing their jobs. No frequent intervals of breaks will be taken. And the workplace area will be taken care. The material will be taken care. And whenever you're very cautiously and consciously working, the number of accidents are reduced. Okay. And in a way, the attention, what you are getting from the organization will also be very, very high. So the morale can be individual morale, which is related to the individual's attitude towards the work and the environment. And it also can be a group morale. So it refers to the overall, that is the climate or atmosphere of the workplace. Okay, and even about the members and so on. So that is called as group morale. So what can be the factors which affect the morale? It can be the organization, that is the organizational structure, the communication system, the networking, and what are the strategies of the organization, the kind of leadership styles the organization follows, the work culture. So these are all will be major focuses which have its effect on morale of the employees. And even the nature of the work, that is whether it is a routine job or it is monotonous, or sometimes it is always challenging jobs, and the level of satisfaction what you get while performing the job, what kind of supervision you are getting while performing the job. Okay, so what can be the worker's perception towards the reward system? What kind of reward system is being followed? And age of the employees, the educational levels, the occupational levels, from where the background, from which side they are coming. Okay, so these will definitely influence the morale of the employees. So what are the signs of high morale? Okay, you want to be part of the group, and you regard a very positive value to the group, and you always try to have common goals and try to achieve them. You have sense of belongingness. You have that feeling, togetherness, where you want to be with your peer team and you want to do the work. And you don't want to divide into subgroups and perform only your task, focus only on your task. And low morale can be tardiness. You're tired all the time. You don't want to do the monotonous, the lazy work. And if at all you don't want to do that job, what really happens? You try to be absent, which results in high rate of absenteeism. And then it can be the labor turnover. Okay, you're not satisfied with the job. You don't get any positive vibes while performing the job. So you tend to leave the organization. You might do strikes and sabotage, destroy the property of the organization. Okay, and you don't take pride of doing work in an organization, or you don't regard the organization to be very high, and you try to waste and spoil the environment as well as the material. So what can be the measures? Maybe by observation, or by conducting attitude surveys, or based on the company records and reports. You have to collect the information from the employees and try to take corrective actions as and when possible. You feel that the morale is decreasing, you tend to take the corrective action. So for that, you need to promote the feeling of importance, how important the work is, how important the employee is for the organization. If you try to create that sense, definitely the employees will be working in the organization with high morale. And whenever you accomplish something, so some kind of celebrations like annual celebrations or something where you try to give awards and rewards to the employees. So such kind of gatherings will definitely increase the morale. And try to give some time off for the employees so that they pursue their personal projects or personal, hobbies. And mix up the company's usual way of doing things. So instead of following the routine A to Z, you can follow a different way of doing things. So the change in the way of doing things might give an impression that they are doing a different job. And definitely you need to have fun while working. So the staff picnics or outings or in-house competitions or some kind of game days or some kind of monthly recreation, such things will definitely increase. And you need to give the sessions or you need to do the training where you develop the positive attitudes of the employees and always offer time away wherein they can have their, that is the free kind of views in performing their own task that will definitely bring them into their spirits. So this is what all about job satisfaction and morale. Now we are going to start with the reward management and employee engagement. Now, what is reward management? In that, we have the first one, job evaluation, where you try to evaluate the job in terms of the difficulties, in terms of the nature, in terms of the time expended in performing the task, wherein the evaluation will try to help you to fix a salary, the reward, the correct, accurate reward for the job. So, job evaluation is an attempt to determine and compare the demands which the normal performance of a particular job makes on normal workers without taking into account the individual's abilities, performances of the workers concerned. So you evaluate the job where you are not considering the individual's abilities. So as such, the evaluation says that for this job, these are the required qualities and qualifications. And if this is performed, this is the pay structure. So what are the objectives? The first and foremost is to rank all the jobs based on their importance of the duties, responsibilities, and develop job grades and pay grades and institutionalize the pay system. So once you implement that, for the entire institution, the same kind of evaluation system is followed to determine the pay scales for the employees in a systematic and scientific manner, and also to avoid and eliminate the employees' grievances. No employee should feel that he is underpaid than his counterpart. And to enhance the ability of the organization in attracting and retaining the best talents. So what are the characteristics? So it is a systematic process. Every time the job is evaluated, and whenever you are doing the evaluation, you need to always remember you're not evaluating the person, but you're evaluating only the job. Okay. So in terms of job, you need to specify what are the things you're going to take into consideration in evaluating. And it is a very rational approach, like the duties, responsibilities, the accountability, or the relative worth of the job. These are the things which are to be considered. And there should be some tool for the classification based on the grades or levels, or depending upon the performance scores. The evaluation process should be different. I mean, you cannot say that a person who is putting his 200% will also be paid equally with a person who has put only 10 or 50%. And based on the evaluation system, the pay decisions will be taken. So what is performance appraisal and evaluation? So performance appraisal, where the employee is rated based on his performances, whereas here the job is rated. So in the performance appraisal, you're rating or you're trying to analyze the performance of the people who are working. Whereas the job evaluation is nothing but evaluating the job. You're not considering the performance of the person. Rather, you're taking the job, the terms of responsibilities, duties, skills, or expertise which is required to perform the job, form a major basis in evaluating the job. Okay, so generally, job evaluation is done by the committee. It can be the external or internal or external experts. Whereas appraisal is done by the employees or peers or superiors or the group of people. So in evaluation, it is only the wages, the payments are decided. Whereas in the appraisal, some kind of a reward is attached. It can be a promotion, it can be a training, or it can be the development, or it can be demotion or punishment also sometimes. So basically, there are many advantages for the job evaluation because job grading is done. Some kind of family structure is created in grouping the jobs and deciding the pay. And definitely the pay policy is also influenced by the job evaluation, and it facilitates in betterment of the financial management. It also helps the HR in evaluating the job and trying to see that what best is suitable, who should be retained, and where which job requires the maximum talent and how much should be paid. So generally, when the job evaluation is done, based on the difficulties of the job, you try to decide, you tend to decide the pay structure. So you will have good relations, harmonious relations in the organization or in the industry, because there is no differentiation based on the job. Your pay structure is decided. And definitely, if any training needs are there or career planning or the development has to be planned, job evaluation will definitely form as a base. Whereas the difficulties or the disadvantages are, it is not objective. So in the method evaluation are not objective. Objective and subjective. Subjective is bias. So the subjectivity is there whenever the evaluation is being done. So it is not only the internal factors which influence the job, but also the external factors. So these factors should also be evaluated while doing the job evaluation. And the decisions, whatever are taken, are generally inadequate, because you sometimes, while evaluating the job, you tend to evaluate the person also. And they're always, the employers are not happy with the performance evaluation, or sometimes the employees are not happy with the performance evaluation. And a lot of frustration that will be leading to. And moreover, you have pressures from the unions, you have the pressures from the HR, you also have the pressures from the external, that is, it can be the government or the labor organizations. And moreover, this job evaluation is cost and time consuming. I mean, you cannot evaluate the job at one go. So these are the principles. You need to rate the job and the jobber. So whatever the elements you are selecting for the rating purposes should be explainable, should be measurable. Okay, and there should not be any overlapping. The same thing should not be measured once or twice. And whatever the rating plan the employee is assessing, that should be, the correct method to assess the job. And whenever the assessment is being done, the foreman or the supervisor, they should be present for the assessment also. And even the employee should be cooperating for the evaluation process. So what is job evaluation process? It is a very, very important essay question. So the first step is you need to identify the job. So job identification, what are the factors which are required to perform a particular job? What are the determinants? And what are the physical efforts the employee has to put? What are the mental efforts he has to put? How much is the concentration he has to put? What is the communication? What kind of an educational skills and experiences are required? The job complexity, the difficulty and the pressure what a person is taking. So these things have to be identified. So once the job identification is done, for every job, the related data has to be collected. So the data can be collected through the evaluation, maybe like interviews, you can collect through, or it can be through the questionnaires, or by mere observation also you can gather the information. So once this is done, the job ranking determination has to be done. So whatever the collected data is there, it has to be analyzed and comparison should be made amongst the jobs. So whatever the information has been collected, you need to analyze the factor wise and assess the extent to which the presence of chosen factor is important in the job. So based on the results, the evaluator will determine the ratings for each job. And if any similarity is there between different jobs, they are rated equally. And then you need to have benchmark determination for the job. So the primary purpose of the job evaluation is to develop the pay grades. Okay, so grading system, how the pay should be differentiated from one to another for each category of the job. So for that, you need to have the benchmarking. And then you also have to conduct the surveys for the salaries and the wages, like pay scales of the benchmark jobs in the other organizations. Like for a manager, how much they are paying, for a supervisor, how much they are paying, and what is the comparative pay in other similar organization. For example, you are deciding about a glass industry. So in other ABC glass industry, what is the benchmark wages or salaries which are being paid? So this can be collected through telephones or newspapers, or maybe by conducting surveys, or by the known sources. And then you have to go with the periodic review, and you have to give the feedback. So for any system, if you see in HR, there is a system called feedback. Without feedback, you cannot say that you're following an accurate method. So what are the methods of job evaluation? Yet another important question. So it can be the analytical methods or non-analytical methods. So in the analytical methods of evaluation, jobs are compared on the basis of few well-defined factors. So the factors can be the skill, knowledge, or some kind of factors you try to identify, and based on that, the job is evaluated. So the first method here is point tracking. In point ranking, the quantitative, it is a quantitative method. So the worth of the job is determined based on the extent of the presence of some defined factors. So they have analytical method, as I already said, some factors will be predetermined. So based on those predetermined factors, whether the presence is there or absence is there, based on that, you do the ranking. So, and these factors are generally compensable factors like skills, knowledge, effort, which can be compensated in monetary terms. So for that, you need to do the, first the evaluators have to determine the factors. And once the factors have been decided, you need to convert them to the compensable factors, that is the monetary factors, and give some appropriate points. And finally, these points are assigned for each and every job to assess the score. Okay. So the next one being the factor comparison. So this is yet another quantitative method. Here, common, that is the factors, a set of factors which are common to all the jobs are identified. Instead of only the compensable factors, what you have identified in the first method, here you try to find out the factors which are common to all the jobs. Like it can be the physical requirements or mental requirements, or it can be the skills, working conditions, responsibilities, so on and so forth. Then for these factors, the jobs are compared, and once the jobs are compared, you finally assign the points, and based on those points, you give the overall rating. And the non-analytical methods are taken up for the evaluation. So it can be the ranking method. So you don't consider any basic factors. In generally, you consider, you don't consider with the job matching, that is the similar jobs, the kind of jobs, the nature of the job. Based on that, the evaluation is done. So in the ranking, the comparison will be done amongst the jobs in the organization. Based on the worth of the job to the organization, the rankings are provided. It can be vertical order, or it can be the horizontal order as well. And it can be the paired comparison. So here each job is individually compared with another job in the organization. And based on the terms of difficulties, based on the kind of requirements for each job, the evaluation is done. Job grading. What is grading? Jobs are grouped on the basis of similarities which are found in the jobs. It can be the characteristics, or it can be the values. And based on that, the jobs are assembled into groups, and the jobs within each group or class, so they are eligible for the same pay or same scale or same grade. So this is what generally happens in the government organizations also. Market pricing, where the job evaluation ensures that there is internal equity. I mean, all the employees doing the similar kind of jobs are getting the similar or equal pay. And the fixation of the pay scales for the different jobs, they try to follow this. And external equity, it refers to bringing the pay scales for the jobs in their organization at par with the other organizations. So that is what is the market pricing, either internal equity or external equity. And what are the essentials for the success of job evaluation? You have to have the confidence of the employees. So employees should feel that whatever the evaluation methods are there, those are genuine, without bias, and they're going to get a good pay with the evaluation system. And whoever is evaluating, the evaluators should be properly trained to evaluate the jobs. And for anything, as I said, you need to have the top management support. And whatever the job factors which are being considered for the evaluation should be clearly mentioned, like what are the factors you are considering important for the evaluation should be clearly mentioned, and a clear, distinguished idea should be there with the evaluator that is not evaluating the job, or he's not evaluating the job holder, or whom he is evaluating, whether the job or the job holder. So that kind of a clear-cut idea should be there in the minds of the evaluators. And it should be accurate and reliable. Whatever the documentary evidences or the sources are being collected or maintained should be accurate and reliable. And yeah, for anything, you have the trade unions support or trade unions intervention. So the trade union should also be recognized and should be playing a positive role in evaluation of the jobs. And then to continue with that, we have wage, welfare, and social security. So what do you mean by compensation? So compensation is nothing but, generally when I say compensation, the meaning what you get in the mind is for some loss, for some kind of an accident, or for some kind of a suffering, you're getting the compensation. But the general terminology in the industrial relations, compensation means payment. It's a reward system. It can be both monetary rewards, non-monetary rewards. So compensation can be the cash payment or cash reward, or it can be only the benefits which are being given to the employees. And why is this compensation given? It is given in exchange of the services. Whatever work is performed by an employee, by a worker, for that the compensation is paid. So what do you mean by the wages? So wage is a price, and this price is paid by the employer to the worker for performance of a particular job or labor. So you have done something in the organization for which the employer has to pay wage to the worker. So if you see the wage concepts, you have nominal wages or money wages, real wages, minimum wage, need-based minimum wage, which comes with the statute, fair wage, and living wage. So what is a nominal wage? A wage which is the money wage. Okay, for example, for 1 hour, if a person is paid 50 rupees, that is the nominal wage. Nominal wage which is paid to a worker for 1 hour work. That is what is called as a nominal wage. Okay. What is a real wage? So when the wage is expressed in terms of purchasing power, it is called as a real wage. Okay. So wherein you try to take the purchasing power of the wages in terms of inflation or deflation, you consider that as a real wage. Okay, so when the prices of the goods rise, what happens? Your real wage falls, but your wages remain the same. For example, you take that is a worker is earning, say, per week 1,000 rupees. That is his real wage per week. Only an example. So if the prices of goods are increasing. We take the example of tomatoes. Tomatoes are 200 rupees per kg. So what happens whenever he is buying tomatoes a kg, his real wage falls. I mean, your 1,000 rupees is not able to meet the high expensive goods in the market. But considering this, is your organization increasing your salary from 1,000 to 1,200 per week? No. So that is the real wage. It remains the same. It remains the constant. So if the prices increase, your real wage decreases. If your prices are decreasing, your real wage increases. Okay. And then the minimum wage is under the Minimum Wages Act 1948. It is protected by law. So according to this, whatever the minimum wages which are legally permissible, which are legally to be paid, compensable to the worker, are payable to the employees for the efforts or for the job what they are doing is called as a minimum wage. This is by the statute. Okay, so statute in the sense the law. And then we have the committee which has decided on fair wages. So minimum wages is the wage which must be provided not only for the bare subsistence of life, but for the preservation of the efficiency of the worker too. So when we are talking about the fair wage, so generally the minimum wages, when we are talking about the minimum wages, these are the wages which are to be paid, which must not only provide to the bare subsistence, for the bare living of the worker, but something extra. Like, what do you mean by something extra? Maybe apart from the food, clothing, rent, fuel and lighting, some kind of money which can be devoted for the minimum medical expenses, minimum educational qualifications, minimum recreation, and minimum amenities. We are talking only the minimum part. So when I'm saying medical, you can't go to a corporate hospital and say that my wages are not sufficient to meet their expenses. Maybe a local practitioner, a local doctor, where you can go him and pay the minimum amount of fee and get your treatment done. Again, education, maybe it can be the government or it can be the local schools, and we are not talking about the corporate schools yet again. So those are considered as the minimum wage. Coming to the next is the need-based minimum wages. Now, this is as per the Indian Labour Conference in the 15th session, which is held in the July 1957, has suggested that these are the factors which are to be considered for the minimum wage. So when we are considering the size of the family, we are considering only the male person, one person's earnings, leaving the female and the adolescents who are also working and sharing the responsibility. So what are the food requirements? So as per Dr. Ackroyd, the net intake of calories per adult should be 2,700 calories. So your weight should be fixed up in such a way that these are met. And clothing for average workers family of 4. The total 72 yards of the clothing is required. And the minimum rent, which is charged by the government in any area for the houses. It can be the subsidized housing scheme or low income groups. And 20% of the minimum wage should be covering the fuel, lighting, and other miscellaneous items of expenditure. So this is what the need-based minimum wage, which has been propounded by Ackroyd. And then we have fair wages. So what is this fair wages? These are the wages which are above the minimum wages, but below the living wage. What is minimum wage? Which provides the bare subsistence, which provides the wages which are barely required for the subsistence, apart from food, clothing, shelter, the minimum amount of amenities for the medical, recreation, and education. That is the minimum wage. So the fair wage is above the minimum wage and below the living wage. So what is living wage? Living wage is nothing but it is the highest wage paid by leading companies in the leading economy. So in between the highest and the lowest, the fair wage is there. So here Fair wages are determined through negotiations between the employer and the employee. It can be the employer and his associations, employee and their unions. So in that way, you try to decide like how much should be paid. So the workers have unions, employees will have associations, and the employers. The tri-party will be deciding, will be negotiating, and based on the factors, based on the ability, the employer will accept for the payment of the wages. So it is the employer's ability to pay, what is the productivity expectation, and how much is the workload they are taking. And it also depends upon the employee, that is the union bargaining power, and also the economy, the location of the industry, how much it is contributing to the national income, the wage levels prevailing in the same area. Based on these factors, the fair wages are decided. And the last one being the living wages. So the living wage, as described, is the highest payment. And it can be the wages that should enable the earner to provide for himself and his family not only the bare essentials of food, clothing, and shelter, but some kind of a comfort. It can be relating to education, it can be relating to the insurance, or it can be relating to the social needs. So all these factors are considered in the living wage. Okay. So these are the different types of wages, the terminology, the wage concepts. So these might come for short or an essay. And coming to the next subheading, methods of wage payment. It can be time rate system where the wages are decided based on the time you spend in the organization. It can be hourly rate, okay? So, or it can be the time, the volume, what you have taken in the production. So, those will be taken into criteria for the decision of the payment. For 1 hour, how much of a time you spent, you produce, for that the wage is decided. And then you have the piece rate system. So in the piece rate system, the number of pieces you manufacture in a particular stipulated time period of the work, time frame of the work, based on that, the wage will be decided. So it can be straight piece rate, that is the number of units into the rate per piece can be the wages, or it can be the piece rate with guaranteed time rates. So if the earnings on the piece rate are less, then the guaranteed minimum wages will be provided to the worker. And it can be differential piece rate. So the rate per piece is increased as and when the output levels of the worker are increasing. Okay. So the more you produce, the more you are going to earn. So that can be the system which is followed in the payment. Okay. Now coming to the meaning of welfare, I think it is already time. So we are going to continue this in the next class.